So I'll get this session off formally. Welcome to the marketing course. Uh, what we intend to cover in this particular session is the basic marketing model, the four P's of marketing, and understand the evolution of the SAVE model and net customer delivered value. So this is what we will cover in today's session. As far as marketing course in itself is concerned, it will cover four sessions. Okay, can you hear me now? So there will be four sessions in all, and each session will have an individual assignment at the end. At the end, you will also have a case study. That case study can be done as a group or it can be done individually. Every session is chronologically placed. So each session, if you keep doing and following, you will be able to understand the next concepts from that. Also, as far as reading material is concerned, in marketing, you can read as much as you like. Although for the course, there is no reading material which is necessary to read beforehand. As long as you stay abreast with the sessions and you keep doing the assignments, it is fine. Anybody who has any question, please keep putting it on the chat, and every few minutes I'll take a break and answer the questions before I move ahead. Anybody wants to ask anything before we continue from here? Okay. So marketing is there a sound problem for the others as well, or only Ajay is having some issue? Ajay, it seems to be at your end because my sound check also is working fine. So Narsi, we are just getting started. Nothing specific that I have covered as an introduction. I just went through how this course will progress. In a nutshell, you just need to follow the sessions and go do the assignments in time. You don't need to go through the other reading material or anything. Each session will go in chronological order. Okay. So as far as how this course is designed is because in the 2 years that I've been teaching it, I found that there is more of a myth around marketing everywhere rather than understanding the reality of this space. My own career progression has taken me in operations first for the first 10 years of my career. Then I was in the marketing space for the next 10 years, and then I moved into education. So, a lot of you here who attend this course are people who are more project and operations oriented, and I come from a similar background. It's important to understand that operations guys have a better hold of what marketing is about and can do better if they get their understanding right. There's a lot of maths there which marketing people tend to avoid otherwise. And rather than only seeing 1% of the glamour that we tend to focus on, marketing has a lot of other aspects. And the intention is that in the next 3 to 4 sessions, you will have understood that reasonably well. So I will start from what are the deliverables here. Uh, Primarily, the two metrics which everybody is talking about in marketing nowadays is the customer lifetime value and the customer acquisition cost. Just two metrics everywhere which everybody is talking about. Now, directly jumping onto those two metrics tends to create a lot of misinterpretation of what we are trying to achieve. And it's more important that you build yourself to understand the basics behind that before we reach there. So, CLV and CAC is what we will do in the third session. And prior to that, in the first two sessions, we'll build up all the things necessary to reach there. Starting from the basic marketing model, you basically need some market offering that the buyer needs and the seller has. And this is what the seller gives to the buyer. So, a product, service, whatever we want to call it, we can call that a market offering. And assuming that there is no barter system, although demonetization in India seems to have got back the barter system in India to quite a good extent, but still assuming that we still have currency and it is not a barter system, what we return in terms of what we take from the seller is money. Now the seller gives the buyer the information that he has the product, and that is called as communicative information, which in general parlance we try to understand as promotion or advertising. And the buyer closes the loop by giving a feedback, and that's how the basic marketing model is constructed. So you need a buyer, you need a seller, you need some product that the buyer needs and the seller is willing to give. Once the buyer gets that, the transaction is completed by giving in return money. The buyer comes to know that the seller is giving this product by the information that the seller is giving out to the market. And once the buyer has used the product, they give a feedback to the seller to close the loop. Fairly simple. My question here is now, how does the buyer give feedback to the seller? So how do you think the buyer gives feedback to the seller? Whenever I put up this question, you can put your answer on the chat window quickly. It's also a check to me to know that everyone's still around. Okay. So my next question to all of you is that you've all used millions of products by now. How many products have you given a feedback, a mail, or some direct feedback? Or what percentage have you actually given some written or verbal feedback? Very few. So if that percentage is hardly a couple of percentage points, so should we say that this loop, which is the basic marketing model, does not get completed? Yes, social media is contributing largely to allow more feedback, which was again something which was not there till a few years back. But it then implies that this last part of the loop here of feedback is not getting completed. Does that happen? So that doesn't happen. It's a very basic model and the loop always gets completed. So what is it that we are missing here in terms of feedback? So as far as the seller is concerned, the only feedback that the seller is interested in is sales. Whether it brings in repeat sales, whether it brings in more references, and finally, if the sales is growing, obviously the feedback is good or it's a monopoly product and no, there is no competition. And if the sales is dropping, then people are not interested. So I'll keep coming back to very general, simplistic things that happen in our daily life. And that's how we should understand marketing. That feedback for a seller is purely in sales. Okay. And that's how this loop gets finished. And every time the impact on sales gives you the right feedback of what is the advantage that the buyer is getting from using your product, or whether there is a better competitor out there with a better product. Now, what I was coming to next is what Narsi is also already mentioned here, that feedback usually is a complaint. So in general, whenever we write something in a written manner, nine, as it is, there's only 1 or 2% of products in which I might be giving a feedback. And even in those 1 or 2% products, if it's a voluntary feedback that I am giving from my side without any prod from the other end. So when I say prod means if you go to a McDonald or a Pizza Hut or somebody in some restaurant gives a feedback form in front of you, then it's a prod from the other side where you tend to write something which may be positive. Or nowadays, when you get your car servicing done, you always get a call back. And the service advisor has already pleaded with you before the car has gone out that when you get the call, please give 10 across always. And even if there is a complaint, call me back rather than giving a negative mark over there. So that's a complete misunderstanding of feedback. Okay. As far as the feedback is concerned to the seller, they are only interested on the impact of sales. And if this part is understood, then it raises another question. Why have a structured feedback then? Why do these so many these feedback forms are given? Who are these feedback forms for? So what are these feedback forms for if the company is only interested in sales as a measure of feedback? Anybody has any answers? Okay, so this is what you need to understand a little better now. Customer feedback is for the customer themselves. A little tricky to understand, but that's what it is. And I'll explain it to you how. So you have given feedbacks, and when you give these written feedbacks uh, to your service advisor or in a restaurant or something like that, what generally happens? Just try to recollect the process that happens. You'll get a phone call from the company that your car was serviced. So I just had this experience yesterday. I got my Camry back from service and immediately Toyota sends this call. So what is the conversation that happens? That your car got serviced. Is this a good time to speak to you? And you say, yes, I'm an old customer. I understand this. And please give 10 to all the questions. Now, this person has not asked me all the questions also and just says thank you very much and closes off. This is where the process has gone wrong. What the company actually wants is for you to at least be sounded out with each of the questions. Just like if you go to a restaurant, they want you to see all the parameters. So what generally happens with customers is a generalized overall feeling of good or bad. And if there is nothing negative, we have a general good feeling and we tend to give good marks across. At the same time, if we have any one factor also which has gone wrong, we have a general bad feeling. And when we want to complain and have a bad feeling, then in every question we will give bad marks. Okay, so it's in everything. For example, you give a faculty feedback. If the faculty was fine, you will give a feedback on everything as good, even if the faculty has been very bad on punctuality. And if the faculty was bad, then a thing like punctuality, which is completely objective, there is no subjectivity. Whoever may be very well in time always will get bad marks there as well. So any dispute in what I have said so far? Any disagreement, any dispute in what I have communicated so far? Okay. So the idea of this feedback is that even in your general feeling, you at least get an impression of all the different factors. So if you go to a restaurant, they want you to give marks on hospitality, they want you to give marks on cleanliness, they want you to give marks on ambience, they want you to give marks on pricing, and they want to give marks on various factors as well as the product itself and its taste. So the product is not about just the food you eat, it's the whole experience in totality, and they want you to at least recognize all the factors. Now the advantage of this is that when you subconsciously actually compare with some other product of a competitor, At that time, if these feedback forms get recollected or somewhere in your conscious mind, subconscious mind, they have planted the various factors to evaluate, you will start doing that. That the food may be better here, but the ambience is better there. So if I'm planning a party, at that time I would prefer to take a lot of my guests to a place where they say that the air conditioning was good rather than saying that the food was very good. And again, I'll give you a very common thing that seems to happen in all our lives. Most of us have Indianized palates, and we prefer the food that we get at highways and dhabas and a lot of normal joints that we go to otherwise. And generally, when you go to a very upmarket sort of restaurant or something, which is more of a party or something, you're not very happy with the food quality over there. So we are always talking of other things over there rather than the food. And I don't know whether it's your experience as well, but at least I'm 47 now, and in many years that I have seen, generally I see the chatter around to be that the food was fine, or within the food they'll pick that this was good and that was good, and it won't be a general thing like all was good. But other parts will be more important, and people are going to take decisions of where to do the party more based therefore on the overall experience, specifically how the place looks, what's the ambience, what's the air conditioning, etc. Okay. So customer feedback is basically for the customers. And this needs to be understood because when we go on to the 4Ps and the NCDV model ahead, then we'll understand how the basic marketing model has been built up and the actionability has been built into this small and common base of marketing, whether it's digital or whatever, where primarily a marketing model only boils down to this: having a product or a solution which the buyer needs and a seller is there to give. The buyer, on completing the transaction, gives back money, assuming that we don't have a barter system. The seller, to make the buyer aware that he is available in the market for that product, gives a communicative information which we call advertising or promotion, and the loop is closed through a feedback, which for the seller is basically in terms of sales. So that was the basic marketing model. Anybody has any questions there? Any questions on this? I can take that now. Okay. So before we close that topic completely, I've put together a few pictures here. And if we label this 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, and this is 4. What do you think is happening in these 4 pictures? What story are you seeing here? So what story are you being able to see here? How many of you are married, by the way? Is everyone married here? Okay. So if all are married, an important question which probably all of you will understand. So I put the question there. Yeah, so I guess you'll get a very unanimous answer there that a silent spouse is a very bad sign. Although otherwise, every joke that we read on married couples is that they would prefer silence. And it's true, actually. I've been married for over 20 years now. And whenever someone asks me what's the secret to such a nice, happy marriage, I would say our roles are completely divided. She speaks, I listen. So, coming back to this, it is similar to that, and I will relate this experience to something we all have. We have our mobile operators. Every month, when we pay the bill, we give them a few bad words for the service received, and yet we go ahead and pay because we don't see an alternative which is still there. But in the light of a competitor like Jio suddenly coming in, what happens? So when you take the product at the start, everyone is very happy. You made your transaction, so you believe you have the best product in the world. And the seller obviously has generated some revenue, so everyone's happy. Then the customer call center start getting all the complaints, and the seller is looking elsewhere because the money is already in the bag, assuming that a lot of things will get quietened down. Till there is a lack of a competitor outside, this process just keeps continuing. The call centers are more of a place for people to vent their anger and cool down rather than any solution being provided easily. Everybody has a very high hit rate of all matters closed fast, but things which are trivial are the ones which get closed, and the things which really need some looking into are something which never get closed. People just assume it to be a given over a period of time. Anyway, it's when the geo comes in that the customer very quietly goes and takes a free SIM card of the other one and starts using it, and slowly the usage and everything of the primary phone goes down, or the primary operator goes down. So again, that's a live experience. I had a single SIM phone. I moved on to a dual SIM phone. The Geo SIM is obviously there, and it's there with almost every heavy user now. And the dual SIM is occupied by the other user from where your primary number comes, which is an Airtel or a Vodafone or whatever. But these other companies are definitely seeing a drop in their average revenue. because a lot of activity has moved on to the GeoSIM. And suddenly you get a lot of sweet calls coming back. Now you're the silent one, and from the other side, you're getting offers and can we give you something and all those sort of stuff. But the chance is that if you have allowed step 2 to happen, you've already broken your relationship, and step 4 is bound to happen as soon as a competitor gives you something better. So the learning from this on the life side is that have a customer call center, but listen, keep the customer talking. Agreed, there will be a lot of complaints which will be very immaterial and trivial, but a talkative, complaining customer is always much better than someone who doesn't talk and goes silent. And whatever can be solved must be solved. Okay. So what's our basic problem sales statement? Having a legally profitable organization with comparatively happy or satisfied customers. The word comparatively looks confusing, but again I'll explain that to you. How does customer sound to you when you say it in Hindi? Or if someone who does not know English and hears the word customer, and that fellow is a Hindi person speaking person, what does he hear? Yes, customer. Or so for those who may not know Hindi very well, kasht means pain and mar means die. So that's another reality which we all should understand before we even understand marketing. There is no customer that the world has ever produced who can be completely satisfied or happy. That DNA strand was never created. It does not exist. There is no genetic modification for it to exist. And therefore, the only thing that is possible is to make a customer comparatively happy, is with respect to some other competitor or product or whatever, given that the choices are limited or there is no better choice, so I stick to this. But having a happy or satisfied customer is looking for something which the world has not seen till date. So don't even try that. Okay. There is not a single exception. And if you can try to find an exception, do that as an assignment, but you won't find an exception. If we say that the Indians from an election standpoint are customers of Modi, and we see that huge rhetoric happening outside on demonetization where everybody is almost They don't seem to be talking much on demonetization, but they seem to be talking only of pro or anti Modi. Do you really think that is still happiness or satisfaction? So I'm going far beyond the loyalty of just a product like Apple. Even people with that kind of fan following are happy only to the extent that they are seeing something that visibly does not hurt them. If in the coming February 1st budget, the income tax goes up by another 30%, and Modi says, I'm doing it for all the poor people of this country, you will find yourself on the other side, as many others right now. And then, if in the following budget, Modi says, I've done enough for the poor people, and everybody now needs to pay a tax whatever they earn, he's going to find himself on the other side of all those people as well. So you keep toggling, but you will never find a completely happy or satisfied customer. You'll only find comparative. Apple is no different. The Google Pixel is slowly eating into the Apple iPhone base, and there are many others which have started eating up in other spaces as well. And even the MacBook is getting far more affordable now, which is something that I think we will understand it in the coming sessions. A very interesting thing which I will share and try to analyze is that in the smartphone space, Apple holds about 9 to 10% of the market share of the world, and still 91% of all the profit that is generated in smartphones. So, that's a huge thing to say on brand following. And in the next couple of years, you'll see how it changes very, very fast. And reasons for that, I'll enumerate, and in case I miss at some point of time, you can even remind me, I'll take up that discussion. But it will be more relevant when we talk about the objectives of market share, profitability, and sales revenue. Three different objectives which seem to be aligned. Okay, so comparatively happy has been understood. Why legal? Why legal? So the word legal is there because whenever we are studying, we are assuming that we are talking of legal professions. So marketing is not applied to assassinations, kidnapping, robbery. That may be a different complete um, education which is run somewhere else. And we assume that we are talking of legal organizations when we study this. And then there is one more debatable word which is called profitable. And in the current startup scenario which we've been seeing for the last few years, this word seems to have got completely sacrificed. The outcome of that is visible with Flipkart now, where this great unicorn of the Indian startups went up to a 15.5 billion valuation and then dropped within 9 months to 5.5. Snapdeal, I believe, has got snapped up for 2 billion finally. It should be in the news soon. And that's a very, very small percentage of the kind of valuations on which it raised its money from its investors. What happened to housing.com is again known to most people. Ola also seems to be dropping in its valuations now. Paytm is the one which seems to be having a heyday at present. But all these organizations have only banked on sales revenue, none of them has shown any signs of profitability, although on paper the potential existed. So there has to be a time frame in which you get profitable, because only then you are being able to sustain the organization. So that's why the basic problem statement to solve is having a legally profitable organization with comparatively happy or satisfied customers. And the word profitable ensures that in the marketing space, you therefore don't go and feed the customer from your own pocket, which a lot of startups are doing. So if you're going to give a customer a pricing which is below your own procurement price, it's like saying that the customer who could have bought from seller A is buying from seller B because seller B is taking from seller A, discounting from his own pocket and giving it to the customer. How long is that customer going to be with seller B? Only till that discount persists. Actually, it is seller A who is more sustainable because he's maintaining his profit and not willing to break that. And I still believe it defies common logic and will therefore be a myth always, the bubble of which has to burst, where you're trying to defy common logic. How can a subsidized or discounted product sustain the same market share and customer base over a longer period of time? So debatable points, but that's how it is. Anybody wants to discuss that further, or has that been understood? Anything to be discussed further, or we've understood that now? So Narsi, when you mentioned that Flipkart started that way but are into discount game now, uh, the question is, why did they need to get into the discount game? Yes, so it was for market share, and I will take that up. Maybe I'll take it at the end of this session if we have time, or at the beginning of the next session, where we'll discuss how profitability, revenue, and market share should be aligned for a profitable organization, but it is rarely so. So even in the case of Apple, market share is being sacrificed for profitability, and whenever market share wants to be increased, the profitability has to be decreased. Okay, so ideally one will say that if you increase market share even with a lower margin because of higher volumes, you will be more profitable in absolute terms. But that is not something that realistically may happen, and you have to keep juggling between these three numbers. Uh, Ideally, of course, if sales revenue grows, it implies market share should grow. And if both of them are growing, then at least absolute profitability should be growing. But that doesn't happen. So if Flipkart had to get into this, it means they needed more market share to sustain. So while they were working on a profitable model earlier and not discounting, the threshold market share may not be enough to sustain their operations. So they went into funding once they reached a certain stage. went into the cycle of building up market share, but the process then of retaining that market share with the same kind of discounting is something that will take far more funds and far more period than what they all estimated, which is where all this soup has started spreading all of a sudden. So it's more of timelines and being able to deliver in those timelines. Okay, any questions there, or we can move ahead? Okay, so I'll get to the next one. Subhrajit has raised, depends on product, etc. So let's start understanding the 4 Ps. Product, place, price, promotion. If I give these numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 as they are serialized here, then how should any marketing guy plan this? What comes first, what comes second, what comes third, what comes fourth? What is the sequence? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3, 2, 4, 1, 4, 2, 1, whatever. What do you think should be the sequence? Okay. So Ajay says 1, 2, 3, 4. Anybody who has a difference of opinion? Okay. So personally, I don't agree with 1, 2, 3, 4 any longer. Well, Ajay, there aren't 5 now. There are almost 7, or they've reached 8 now. You have physical evidence and packaging and you know process, a lot of P's which have come. But let's stick to the traditional 4. There's one 5 people which people keep debating on, that without the customer, how can you talk of 4 P's? So P for people should have been there. But there is a logic to that as well. And if Kotler has been such a guru on that, he knew that logic, which is that these 4 P's are independent of each other and explain the process of creating a marketing plan, whereas that customer, or P for people, is omnipresent. So none of these P's can be designed if that customer has not already been decided upon. So something which is a given or a constant always should not be taken up over here, is how that P for people has been avoided. So let's take it up. P for product, then price, then place, then promotion. Over here it is product, place, price, promotion, but we'll decide that when we understand the logic. So what does product signify? What does place signify? What does price signify? And now what does promotion signify? Is this Is this fine? Narsi, what are you trying to ask in market rank? Okay. So these four are logical questions to signify this. Uh, Place is equal to market rank. I didn't understand market rank. Place is where the buyer can get the product. Okay. So from this, if we put 1, 2, 3, 4, which place is definitely 4? Which place is definitely 4? Which P is definitely 4? Promotion. So fourth is always promotion. And the reason is clear. Every customer is going to ask the first three questions or should be knowing the first three questions. What are you trying to sell? How much are you going to try and sell it for? Where is it going to be available? So these are the questions which are relevant to the customer. And in the advertising, promotion, whatever you want to call it, that information has to cover these three. So unless these three are known, the promotion becomes ineffective. Therefore, promotion is always to be planned fourth. One is also product. No dispute there, because till you don't know what you are selling, uh, the where and the how much doesn't come into the picture. Now, place used to have a far greater relevance when we didn't have internet or online, because in a physical marketplace, the location of the market was a more relevant thing at a point of time, and based on that we used to then take out a collective pricing according to the customer and the affordability and competition at that place. But in the current scenario, two is now about pricing. And this is because we have a very large virtual marketplace that is being formed. And in the virtual marketplace where everything is accessible to anybody from anywhere, the relevance of place as such has decreased to a large extent. Any debate or any argument there, anything that you would like to understand further? So as far as the four P's are concerned, we have a product, then we have the pricing, the place and promotion. So I'm not completing four P's here. I'm just talking about the sequence. Yes, over the counter is still relevant, will always remain relevant. It will, at least in the current perspective, or we've seen, in our lifespan, we've seen a time where we never knew online would be so big. But yet, however big online gets and the virtual world gets, we still don't see a stage where the offline will get completely wiped out. So I believe it will always remain relevant, but in totality, in terms of importance now, or how you plan your marketing, you need to have your pricing before the place, because with competition being able to operate at a global level, you have to be able to compete with them on the pricing before you can. So if your pricing is not good, just because of a place, it's not going to run any longer. So people will not go just because you were bound by a place to from where to sell. And those will be a much smaller exception in the market, maybe a tourist spot or some such places where some place relevance could still be there. But otherwise, the general consumption, pricing will play a greater role than place. And for anybody who's trying to understand marketing and wanting to do it on the ground, this needs to be understood. So by the end of this course, I should be able to get you through a assignment where you actually are able to perform like a marketing manager. Okay, can we move ahead? Fine. So many of you are from the IT space. My next discussion will be on the product. There is a differentiation of product versus service. So what is that primary difference between a product and service? What is the primary difference between a product and a service? So this is something that we have been used to hearing always, tangible versus intangible. But if I take the IT sector in itself, what would you call software? A product or a service? So this is where it crosses the domain and you have a lot of software services. At the same time, you have a lot of software products. So the CD on which it comes is also irrelevant now because you can download the product, and so Windows will definitely come under a product category, whereas a lot of cloud-based services will come under a service category. When you use a Ola or something like that, it's always a service, but there is a software which is running that service. Probably in our country, a product and service is now differentiated by the tax you pay. So service tax on service and sales tax on product. But with GST coming in, even that will go. So you will not be able to differentiate again because you will have a common goods and services tax. So again, differentiating between what is a service and what is a product will go. How therefore should we differentiate it? Okay, so without racking our brains too much on that, What has happened is that there has been an evolution, because a lot of things which were written at a certain point of time never were able to see things that far ahead, and justification of age old things keeps continuing till we can do it, and then one fine day when that doesn't happen, a new nomenclature is formed. So we use the word solution now, which covers both product and or service. So the word is now solution. What is the solution? The solution is satisfying the need of the customer. Okay, and that can can be satisfied by a product or a service. So it's easier to call it a solution. So this is product, this is solution. The meaning of solution has been made a slightly more enhanced to product, where ambience, impact of health, quality, other accompanied accessories or variety, etc., all come under the solution. So what does the customer need? Not only to satisfy hunger, but also to have different tastes, to get the dessert as well, to have something to drink as well. And the solution can therefore be customized for every customer in the way they want to get it. Okay. So it's just a little built up on the word product or service, and it's easier to call it solution. Similarly, when you go for place, since physical marketplace no longer is the only mode, you also have a virtual marketplace. So the common word which satisfies both is access. So access to the net for virtual, or to the physical marketplace in terms of timing, shop, whatever you call it. So the word access covers both. So instead of solution place, we can call it access. Value is something I'll take at the end. The fourth is promotion, which is now called as education. So rather than only talking about the uh, solution, the access, and the pricing, we talk about educating the customer also on how to improve the benefits by various types of usage of the product, and therefore increasing the value. Okay. So focus now is not only on pricing, because if pricing was the only focus, Apple would not have reached where it has reached. Apple does not focus on pricing. Apple focuses on value, and this is what we will understand now. So if you have an iPhone and if you gift it to your grandfather, who's probably past 70 now, not very technologically savvy, and if that grandfather asks you, what does this phone do, you give him a huge list of things that the phone can do, and then that grandfather says, I'm only interested in talking and listening on the phone, and you say it also does that, and then that grandfather asks you, how much does it cost, and you say 70,000 rupees, and he says that my 3,000 rupee phone seems to have a better talking and listening than this 70,000 phone. How much ever you explain after that that it's an apple, the person is going to say you have no value for money. Okay. So has everyone understood that? Any disagreement there? So when that comparatively satisfaction talk was created and Apple was something which a lot of people have a fan following for, the pricing still pinches. But despite the pinch on the pricing, people will take up the Apple because it delivers a lot of value. And that is what we will try to understand here now, that when you take these four of SAVE, the solution is only an enhancement of product. The access is only a re-explanation of the place, but the value is completely different from price. It has nothing to do with price. Okay. Value is completely different from price. Price is the money that the customer pays for the solution. Value is the benefit that the customer derives from the usage of the solution. Okay, so two very, very different things and something that is very critical to understand. We'll use this example here. There are three products I've shown here: a normal tube light, a CFL, and an LED tube light. What are the pricing? We're all aware of the pricing. In terms of pricing, what will it be? Can someone help me with what is the pricing? So a normal tube light will be 40 rupees. A CFL, okay, 80, and an LED tube light at 150. So if a decision has to be taken on pricing, everybody will only take a normal tube light. Okay. If the decision has to be taken only on pricing, then 40 rupees is definitely better. Okay, 40, 80, 100, 150, 50, 100, 300, whatever. The tube light, the normal tube light is definitely the cheapest in all three. But all educated people, whenever they are going for a change now, are preferring to move to the LED tube light. It is, but do you think a product will work only because it is innovative or it's new? It works because it derives more value. So if we see the benefit that the customer derives, benefit that customer derives, then it is the lumens of light given by the product for the energy cost spent. Okay, over the lifetime of product. So one is that the life will vary. So if we put a ratio of 1 is to 2 is to 3, and we say that a LED will work for, so if a normal tube light works for 1 year, CFL of same wattage could be 2 years, and LED tube light 3 years. So as it is, the this only from the life perspective, this will become 120 and this will become 160 for the similar benefit that we get. Now the energy cost over the similar lifespan. So if a tube light takes 40 watts for the same lumens of electricity, the CFL may do it in 12 watts and the LED tube light may do it in 7 watts, which means the energy consumption over there over the same time span, over the same usage, will have a huge variation. And so over the lifespan, maybe this will cost you finally 400 rupees, this may cost you 300, and this may cost you 200. So as you see in this example, the pricing does not have any relation with the value. The pricing does not have any relation to the value and should not be confused over there. Based on the value that you give to your customer, if you are able to charge a price, that is when you make the kind of profits that Apple is making. Okay. So based on the value that you provide to the customer from usage, the price you can extract for that will be the way to generate higher margins and profits. Model understood. Clear on this? Any questions, any doubts? So this was 4Ps and the SAVE model. And therefore, when you educate, you want people to derive more value, which means use it more. Okay, so value is usage. More the usage, more the variety of usage, more the value, and hence more the price the customer is. Narsi, I think that's a myth over there. So I think before I move ahead, let me also remove one more myth. When we say status, we imply brand value. When we say status, we imply brand value, or is there any other thing when we say that? Branded product. True, or anybody has anything else on that? So that value or status value is about brand value. And how do you think brand is built? How is a brand built? So Narsi, by the time I finish this, I am sure I'll be able to explain to you what I'm talking about. How is a brand built? Can advertising build a brand? Yes or no? Advertising is communicative information. That's the basics. And that is building awareness. In fact, I'm quite sure you've not seen the kind of advertising of Apple that you have seen of many other competing products in which Apple operates. So other competing products, even after having only 9% of the profitability of the entire segment, spend far more on advertising than Apple spends. iPhone 7, iPhone 6, hardly any advertising. Micromax, Lava, Samsung, all of them huge amount of advertising. So how then is brand built? Brand is built by consistent customer experience against promises made. This is how brand is built, and therefore you cannot build a brand in a day. So this is where the product life will define the time. And from this you'll now start understanding that if today you have to buy even online, for a 10% premium, you wouldn't mind buying from Flipkart versus an unknown online uh, name, even though the belief on the process of online has reasonably been established. So the reason for that is that because multiple experiences with Flipkart has given me a certain trust over there that from here I understand the process, So it's worthwhile spending 10% more. And it happens in all our buying decisions always. Even when we go to buy our grocery or whatever, we trust the place where we've gone all the time. And because the unknown is always more uh, problematic or difficult to bear or take a decision on, a little premium paid for the belief we have in a certain brand, we pick it up. And I can give you a lot more examples on that. So when Tata will launch a new product, it will always write there a Tata product, which means it's trying to get all that customer experience of different kind of Tata products into this new thing so that the brand value gets built up quickly that expect the same kind of experience. But if anything starts going bad with something, nobody wants to align with that name at all. So yeah, so if you want to try a prepay or something, you will always go to an established or somewhere where experience of yours has been fine with an online player. I still doubt you will go anything other than a COD with anybody new. And the reason online picked up in the middle was because they brought in this COD thing, which reduced the uh, issues that people had, and then the pricing looked better without the risk that I have to pay upfront. So if it is brought to my door and then also I like the product, then COD is fine. But believe me that even with COD, I am happier with my local close by shop with a 5 or 7% premium. So even now, online has to give uh, more than 5 to 7% or 10% discount from my next door shop before I will buy from there. And that's a function of the branding. So when we talk of even a Mercedes or we talk of an Apple, and when we say status, the reason over there is that because consistent experience of that product in terms of its luxury, XYZ, whatever, has been built around a certain uh, proposition that they have sold. That is why it is aspirational. So a high-end vehicle cannot just be produced by even a Maruti and start selling because they don't have that experience in high end. They don't have that customer experience. Therefore, Maruti could never do very well in the high end segment. So, at the target base which has been taken by those products, the pricing which has been kept is keeping a certain higher affordability segment only in mind, and therefore it is aspirational that if I also can afford it, I will take that product. Okay, it is not that just because I have that product it is a status symbol. It's the other way around. Obviously, if I can afford it, I will take something which has that kind of experience behind it, because everybody says that you don't see it standing on the street, and it's a very luxurious thing to have. I hope, Narsi, I've been able to clear your uh, doubts or perception there. Okay, so going back to my presentation, you need to educate on various methods of usage now and how much maximum value the customer can derive. Because more they use, the more the value they will derive, and more the value they will derive, easier it will be to fork out money for that. In fact, Geo has played on this only. They are getting people to use their services a lot by giving what is more required nowadays, which is a bandwidth. So giving that kind of internet connectivity and all that. And once people have certain value which is associated with what they are getting, when you plug in a pricing over there which gets justified by that value, people are bound to start paying that as well. And it is very unlikely that the people who have the Geo SIM cards are going to drop significantly when that payment starts. So yes, there will be a reasonable shakeup. That percentage which is taking it only because it is available free and otherwise will not take it only. They will prefer to work on a Wi-Fi, but they won't take it. That percentage may go off. In fact, some of that percentage may still stick because over 5-6 months when they're used to having their phone always running the net, they might still pay some money for that. And within the customized plans that come out later, maybe some plan will fit even for these guys, a very cheap one or something over there where they say at least we have connectivity and we will work around that. But those who have general users and always do pay some money are unlikely to leave that product if they are able to get the right pricing for what their usage is. Okay, so that was 4 Ps SAVE model built up from your basic marketing model. And we'll wind up this session by going through the last part, which is net customer delivered value. And again, this is from where your mathematics will start and your assignments will start. So you have an assignment which is there, which will primarily focus on NCDV, which we'll understand now. Before I take up this last part of today's session, anybody has any question, I can take that. Any questions so far? Okay, can I get a quick yes, no from everybody so that I at least know that we are still all there? So Ajay is awake, Narsi is there, Subrajit is there. What about Apurva and Bhumika? Some indication from the two of you that you're still on the session. Apurva, Bhumika, can we get some indication that you're still around? Okay. So this was an example of what I was trying to tell you. Ensuring that your customers are around and using. So if they stop using or they're not around or they're distracted somewhere, obviously the value has gone down. Okay, coming back to the NCDV model. If you see here, there's a net customer delivered value which is broken up into 8 factors. 4 factors in the value part and 4 factors in the cost part. So what will net customer delivered value be as a formula? Net customer delivered value is equal to total value minus total cost. So simple mathematics, put together all the values minus all the costs and you get the net customer delivered value. The more the net customer delivered value which is available with respect to the competitor, the more scope to increase the price and generate more margin. The more the NCDV available with respect to a competitor, or the scope to increase price. Okay, let's now understand these. So because you need to actually put numbers here, and please let me reiterate that here. When you apply, please put actual numbers. Not ranks, not adjectives, good, bad, average, moderate, high, low. Actual numbers. Okay. And because we are concerned as a customer on the money to be paid, the NCDV is also relevant in money. Okay. So you have to put numbers. Now, what is the number here which is definitely known? Okay, in the next 15 to 20 minutes that we have for this session, let's take up a live example. So someone suggest a solution and suggest two competing brands in that. So give me a solution and two competing brands in that. Anything, mobile phone, television, AC, some service, whatever. Okay, good. Let's take milk. Full cream milk 1 liter and um, Amul Well, I would have loved to take up the MBA from Sunstone as well, but the chances that I'm an interested party and it may get debatable. So let's understand it here, and then please do it for the MBA as well, and see whether you are deriving the real value. So let's start with what is the easiest number to know here. Out of these four numbers in the value we have to put and four numbers in the costs we have to put, what is the number which is easily known, undisputable, easy to be known? Exactly, monetary cost. So start from there always. I think it is similar. Solution value I think is difficult to find, and not something which will be sacrosanct. So this is the only figure which is market driven and given to you. So it doesn't change and it is sacrosanct. You could get a scheme running at some point of time, and that's a good variation to check out the NCDV. So maybe if you are a buyer of Amul finally, if Mother Dairy takes out a, okay, let's complete it. We'll come to that. So monetary cost is 50 rupees a liter. Time cost. What is the time cost? The cost of time spent by customer in procuring product. So what is the time cost? Now what is important here is that we are trying to find out a difference between the two competing brands, and therefore it is not very relevant other than the monetary cost part where you get clear numbers. Over here it is not very relevant whether you have absolute numbers which are right. It is more relevant if you can get the variation between the two right. So to give you an example, a 0 and a 10 is equal to, so you can put a 0, 10, 100 here, and the equivalent value 10, 20, 110 over here is fine, because at the same time uh, the net delivered value will not change. Are you getting my what I'm communicating here? So you can just simply put 0 0 both sides if there is no difference in the time cost. You can put just the difference of the variation that you feel is going to be there. Okay. So for a product like milk, unlikely that there's going to be too much of variation over here. So 0 and 0. Where does time cost become relevant? Can you give me some example? So a Domino's pizza has focused on time cost, and they say 30 minutes you get a hot pizza to eat, otherwise it is free. Okay, and they have reduced given you a value of time cost over there to satisfy your hunger. But in the real product world, your real estate is where you actually see a huge time cost. So a ready to move in apartment versus an apartment which you have booked now, there is a big variation in the time cost, because till you get that apartment, you're paying a rent somewhere, you're probably paying an EMI somewhere, and therefore the cost of that time spent till you actually get the product is very high there. Energy cost is similar to time cost, which is the cost of effort. So again over here we can say 0 0 for this product, because the effort in procuring is going to be similar. You might get a home delivery, you might be going in your campus somewhere to pick it up, you might, there are various ways that you'll do it, but it's likely that both are very similar. And then you have a very important cost here called psychic cost. Okay, so this is where your preferred brand comes in. Okay, so now as I've told you, this part, other than the monetary cost part, becomes individual oriented. So it's not the same for everybody. Every individual can have a different time cost, energy time cost, psychic cost, and different values. And the reason that this is expected and this will happen, is the reason of why you go into segmentation, targeting, and positioning, which is the next thing we'll take up. Because in segmentation, targeting, and positioning, uh, you are trying to find that homogeneous group of customers who are going to derive the maximum value. So now when we talk of the Apple, or we talk of a BMW or a Mercedes or something else, there is a certain homogeneous set of customers who will be able to afford and derive maximum value from the product, and hence they will be the ones that will be targeted. Okay, so that's how it is supposed to be done. So psychic cost is where the preferred brand comes in. Now there will be people here. So quickly, if the four of you have to choose a product between Amul and Mother Dairy, given that the price is same and everything else is same, which will you choose between Amul and Mother Dairy? So Ajay chooses Amul. Narsi, what about you? Okay. So Narsi, Apurba, Bhumika. Anyway, okay. Amul not available, but if you had the choice, probably what will you choose? That's important. Okay, let me ask you, Ajay, that if Amul is your preferred brand, and suppose Mother Dairy reduces their price to 49, will you shift to a Mother Dairy? So, question to you, Ajay. If Mother Dairy reduces the price to 49, will you shift from Amul to Mother Dairy? Okay. So Ajay, next question. What is the price of Mother Dairy at which you will shift from Amul to Mother Dairy? What is that price of Mother Dairy per liter that you will definitely shift from Amul to Mother Dairy? So 4 rupees discount or 4 rupees per liter? Discount. Okay. So let's say 4 to 5, which means if Mother Dairy had become 45 rupees instead of 50, then Ajay would have shifted to Mother Dairy. Now there are two aspects to this. If Mother Dairy comes out with a discount scheme of 10%, where the cashback starts being given of 10%, probably Ajay will start taking Mother Dairy for that much time. So if Paytm says they have tied up with Mother Dairy, pay through Paytm, get 10% cashback. Instead of Amul, maybe I'll go to Mother Dairy. So this 5 rupees is psychic cost, and it is zero for Amul, and it is 5 rupees for Mother Dairy. It's a cost. So the cost is getting added to that brand which you want at a discount. Okay, so effectively now, if you took to the total costs, the total cost for Amul is 50 and Mother Dairy is 55. Okay, because I want at least 5 rupees off before I will switch. So if this had become 45, the total cost here would have become 50, and thereafter if any discount even 10 paise after that would have shifted the NCDV in favor of Mother Dairy, and I would have shifted my choice of brand, maybe temporarily and maybe after the experience over a longer period of time as well. Clear so far? Now let's come to the values. So solution value. Important, do not consider cost, price. Do not consider cost. If cost is kept as a base, then you are assuming that whatever has a higher cost has a higher solution value. Do not consider cost. If cost is kept as base, then higher cost will always imply higher solution value, which may not be correct. So how you derive this is assume without knowing the brand, the two solutions are given to you to use, and what is the benefit of usage you will derive from them is solution. Again, difference is important. NCDV, whether negative or positive, lower negative, Okay, so in the solution value, do not consider cost. Now, assuming you get to use both Amul and uh, Mother Dairy milk separately, you don't know which is which, and after using them, you give them a value. Now, the solution value here could depend on taste, it could depend on thickness or consistency or density. It could depend on uh, amount of fat collected for making ghee, etc. Then you know whatever, and based on that only you should take out a solution value. Now, assuming that over a period of time you have used a particular solution more than the other, there is likely to be some more value you seeing or taste for reason of taste or whatever. So let's say we put this as 5 and we put this as 1. So there's a difference of 4, right? Then you have uh, services after sales service value. So after sales service for a product like milk will probably only be in terms of if it is spoiled or when you boil it, it uh, tears or whatever happens, then can you get a replacement? So if both of them give you replacement, then it is equal. If both of them don't give replacement, one gives replacement, obviously you will give it a higher value. So what does after sales service primarily do? Increases solution life. So after sales service for a product like a vehicle or something like that will always be far more relevant. Then after services value, you have a personnel value. Value derived from interaction with the company representative. Okay, so the mother dairy person is not very good to interact with, but the Amul guy is very good to interact with. So you will give a little higher personnel value. Both of them are self-service, then there is no difference. And it could be the other way around. So let's assume that it's the other way around here, that the mother dairy fellow who runs the place is far more hospitable, and you like to go to that place and take it from him, so you're giving him 2 rupees more over there. uh, okay, these values and costs for most people will be a percentage of the cost. Generally that is where benchmarks will come. I try to avoid using these words because in solutions value you should never take cost, but it is not that for a product like milk personnel value can have weightage which is so high that it can make you change your decision. So if Mother Dairy is sold for 40 rupees or 44 rupees, if solution values are similar, it is likely that you will still go and buy from them even if personal value is a little different, because it can't have that higher weightage. Okay, and then you have image value. This is brand, trust, and works almost hand in hand with sidekick cost. Which means here I'm giving this 5 and this as 0 as it is my preferred brand, and I am willing to pay 5 rupees more because I trust this brand. Now what you will see here is that when I asked uh, which how much discount you will be willing to take, you gave a figure of 4 to 5 and I put 5 here. But after putting 5 here, I gave another 5 at the image value as well, which means the difference has actually gone up to 10. And the reason for this is that for the preferred brand, when it is asked like this, one feels 5, but then it's still not very easy to change a decision. So this model has been pretty beautifully designed that if you apply it well, you'll see that wherever the net NCDV lies, even if it is not your preferred brand, you are likely to shift, because the figures, if they have been logically put here, you have already given enough preference value. Here there is 5 rupees preference value in psychic cost and then another 5 rupees preference value or trust value in image. Okay, so now let's put the values together. So total value, how much did we put solution value there? 5, 1. This is 10 and this is 3. So NCDV is equal to total value cost. For Amul it is 10 minus 50, which is minus 40, and for Mother Dairy it is 3 minus 55 minus 52. So for the NCDV, to shift from Amul to Mother Dairy, you actually need a discount of above rupees 12 is what is likely to make this customer shift from Amul to. And this will probably be quite accurate. So if you come out with accurate figures here, whoever customer comes out with this is going to definitely shift if the discount of 12 rupees comes. So that's how you have to do the NCDV. I'm finishing up Nursery now. So basically, in the assignment, go ahead and do the assignment. Don't worry about right or wrong. Just be original and do it. So all sessions chronologically placed. So please do. Okay, so that's it. I will be putting this all up on the LMS as soon as I'm able to convert the recording and put it on the YouTube, and then I'll send you the link, etc. Anybody has any questions now, I can take that up. Otherwise, I've covered whatever I had to for this session. Okay, so thank you everyone, and I will see you next Saturday now.